Delighted to be joined today by Allan Dowie, former CFO of Clyde Blowers Capital, board member of a number of companies, including tech renewables business Moventas and pump solutions business Keto Pumps, and founding partner of N4 Partners LLP. How are you, Allan? You well?
I'm great, thanks, Mark. Yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well.
Good.
I guess before we move on to N4 Partners, Allan, I think it'd be worthwhile giving a brief overview of your career, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, Mark. I've been very fortunate in my career over the years. I've worked with and met a lot of fantastic people, and I've again been fortunate to work with some of the leading companies in the world, and I've had great mentors and great experiences along the way. I've worked in public markets, private equity. I've been involved in professional services. So probably over my sort of 20 plus years, and it's been in sort of finance, strategy, and sort of various exec positions. So I've worked across a number of sectors. Industrials from energy, utilities, oil and gas, nuclear, renewables, right through to I spent about 8 years in financial services. Worked in public sector, and more recently a bit of tech and healthcare. So yeah. I've been very fortunate with the companies that I've worked with.
And you've set up N4 Partners at the start of the year. For those that don't know, can you tell us more about the business and how did you arrive at that name?
Well, I suppose first of all, in terms of the name, I mean, it was as every new business does. You spend a lot of time thinking about the name and what it'll mean. But I suppose a name, once it's there, the name is in place, and it's almost becomes a bit irrelevant after it. But yeah, there was a bit of thinking in it, and I suppose the N4 basically came from 4 friends, 4 partners, 4 colleagues who've sort of came together. We've worked together for the last sort of 10 or 15 years. So it's very much initially about the power of 4. But I suppose, really, the 4 was just really the initial seed part of it. It was actually the N, so the N is for the nucleus, which is in effect the sort of the central most part of it all, and which is actually the team and the people we are. So that's how in effect we got N4 Partners. So, and also the partnership piece really is about how we see our model going forward. Is very much about being powered by partnership and powered with the businesses and that we'll work with. So the business itself, I mean, there's sort of 2 main aspects to the business. First of all, there's the investment side and the advisory. Yeah. Probably simply put, in the investment side, it's probably more, as we see it, is it's almost about putting some of our capital and working alongside others, and that's certainly where we see the vision of it going forward. But really, where we are today, what we've done is we currently actually already have a fund within the business. We were previously involved in that fund, and we basically set ourselves up as the manager of that. So, and what we're going to do is run through that fund to exit that fund. It's got 4 assets within it in the industrial space, ranging from oil and gas through to wind gear and renewable technology. So really, our focus on that fund is really just to maximise the return to our investors, and really ensuring that all the businesses are, in effect, exit ready. So, as I said, so that's a fund that we'd previously worked with. So we're fortunate that when the business was set up, that we had the opportunity to basically run out of that fund, and that fund is due to run out to the end of 2021. But given with what's happening in the world, there could be opportunities to maximise value with that in terms of actually looking at a fund extension. But that's something that we'll look at in the coming months. Also within that, as I mentioned, there's a sort of couple of small assets that we're looking at, the things that we're doing sort of personally in the sort of the technology and that sort of the health space. So really we see the investment side of the business. Could in the future we raise a further private equity fund? Yes, potentially. We're setting ourselves up for that. That'll also be driven off the back of how we perform with the current assets that we're working on. While we look at things on a deal by deal basis, there's people that there's a lot of capital in the world looking for a home and the right home, and so we've spoke to a number of people about that. Should things happen on a deal by deal basis, that we could look to support or co-invest with people, and as I said, things on a personal basis. The advisory side is a slightly different approach. I mean, I think the team, as I mentioned, that the team, for the bulk of the team, we've worked together for a long time. There's some new additions that came into that, and we've had a wealth of experience over the years. I think our team's been, not only just you've got this sort of we've got from the engineer to the entrepreneur to the accountant to the banker to the lawyer to people that have ran businesses, sold businesses. We've got all the war stories and the scars from what we've done. So I think with that and the advisory side, and certainly a couple of people that have joined the team with what we really see there is that we want to work with businesses on a sort of long-term basis. Really help them grow their strategy. That in turn could mean a small equity stake in it, but really to take the experience that we've got and work with and really get the opportunity to apply that to businesses that are not necessarily in their portfolio, but we can share that experience with over their journey as they go through to growth and maybe ultimate exit.
I mean, we know some of the world's most successful businesses have been started up during times of, I guess, economic and political turmoil. I mean, that said, you've picked a year to start a business. I mean, what have been your experiences, both from a challenge and an opportunity point of view, of launching a business during the COVID period?
Yeah, I think some could say that the planning was couldn't have been worse, but I suppose in some aspects, it could have been better, and obviously, forgetting obviously the impact that COVID's had in the world. But I think, the positive thing for anything is at the start of any new business is that it's a positive, it's the setup of it, it's the excitement of it, and I think because we'd worked together, or most of us had worked together. It meant that, and when because we in effect set up at the beginning of January, we were very fortunate that we had for people we'd worked with in the past, we had a temporary office. We've then signed a lease in a new office, and then that's just been fitted out. But now I can touch on that in a second. But I think you've got the excitement of a new business, but we still had the for some of us, part of the day job necessarily hadn't changed because of the fund that came over. Yep. But it was all really about planning for the future. So obviously 6 weeks into setting up the business, probably the impacts of COVID, and then a few weeks later we went into lockdown. So I think the first 6 weeks was really about trying to set the business up and getting the logistics of it all, getting the team in place, and then suddenly you're hit with this the challenge of all you're working from home. You've got new members of the team who'd only been in a few weeks. You then went to working from home, but at the same time, right in front of us, although we had the new business side of it, we still had the four. At that point, there was 5 businesses we were working with. Suddenly, overnight, going into the challenge of what was it going to mean for these companies? From the focus on the cash within the businesses. What was going to mean? We're going to have to shut them down. What was it mean to valuations? Because we were thinking ahead to exit. So literally, overnight, there was that sort of dawn of realization that the excitement of a new business had suddenly, it went to the side, and it was that, it was the moment that everyone else in the world was going through is, how are we going to get through tomorrow? And I think that, we were very fortunate with our businesses by the nature, as I said at the start, that with that industrial focus of it, that we were able to get essential supplier status. Yeah. Our businesses are dotted around the world, from Australia to South Africa to Finland to the US. So there was different things happening in different regions. Different governments were doing different things. So, but really from Glasgow, in conjunction with the management teams around the world, we were trying to get stability and really map out a plan for going forward. So running alongside that, as you said, coming back to the new business, we were still having to think about the future. Obviously, we're going to exit these businesses at a point in time. Yeah. What does that future look like? So I think that we did have the challenge, and I suppose as part of the opportunity was to reflect on what we were trying to do in the future and be clear. You had that moment of trying to think about what the strategy was, what the business was going forward. trying to plan for what the new world looked like, and also how we would be as people and as leaders. And your thoughts go very much to sort of that sort of people-centered approach to it all. You were having to think differently in how the businesses are going to run that remote leadership, not just from probably from our point, as in us with the companies, but also within the companies, because themselves, we with hundreds and hundreds of people around the world working from home, and also then I suppose the communication aspect of it. I mean, for us, I think we were all used to traveling, on a very regular basis, be it around the globe or to Europe, Middle East, Far East, Australia, the States, wherever, London on a regular basis. So really looking at how that was going to change for us and how we were used to communicating people, even the simple things what the world has moved to in terms of everything moving to Teams and Zoom, and all board meetings are doing like that. We try to install an ethos in terms of, certainly on a regular basis, doing all of it, these sort of board meetings face to face, so you could feel the sense of it. You could see that, could see people. You could walk around the facilities. So even adapting to that and how that will change going forward. So I certainly think there's been a lot of positives. I think that it's given us a chance to reflect, and also how we communicate with each other, just in our team as N4, but how we communicate with the businesses. We've looked at how we can, by having that essential supplier status, we were still to keep going, but how we manage our supply chain, how we manage with our customers, how we manage with our people, building blocks of success. They say, it's people, people, process, system, culture, structure. It's how all of that sort of worked during the period. But I think there's certainly a lot of opportunities that have come out of it for us, both in terms of the way we work, and also for some of our businesses. Actually, a couple of our businesses have had record bookings and record revenues months over the last couple of months. So but again, we've also been impacted in terms of the oil and gas side, which is, has seen the challenges with that. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned about travel and that culture before of I guess wanting to be there in the room for a lot of these meetings. I mean, do you ever see that coming back from your side, or do you think that the kind of online board meeting is what's going to happen in the future?
I think that my view might be slightly different to the norm, and the fact that, so I think the norm, I think people will move to that model. I think in time they will go back to being more face to face. I think that certainly, the Zoom, the Teams approach, getting people together, and that sort of, through technology, has a part to play in it. I certainly think that, and from our advisory side, there is a few deals that have actually happened during this sort of lockdown period. So it's proved that the model can work.
Yeah. I
certainly think that, our experience of being, if we're taking the fund more operationally hands-on, but with the businesses more, slightly more interactive, I think that, we will look to try to get, certainly not to the extent that we were travelling around, but certainly, we're keen to get back out to, certainly, the point I talked about, about the sort of the people-centric approach and the sort of remote leadership. I still think that there's in terms of, really for we're dealing with people, the empathy of it, that sort of daily communication, the engagement of it. I think there's still a part for us to play, and you get a lot from the feel of going out and talking and touching and feeling around the organisation. So I certainly think, I'm looking forward to getting back to that. I think the remote working from home, for me, home and office has become one. I'm looking forward to getting back into the office in some shape or form, and bouncing off of all of the rest of the team, and even simple things that you might get a phone call, you're just dealing with it yourself, at home, whereas before you'd get somebody else in and you're like, well, let's have a chat with it. So I'm certainly looking. I think there's a balance to play, certainly in home working, and certainly we will encourage all of our team to work from home and be at home and do what, and ultimately safety is paramount for all of our employees and all of our businesses. But I'm looking forward to that day to day, to even getting the coffee chats back.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think that's a common theme. You know, I think people do split up into two camps. Some people have loved it and can never see it going back, but I think there is almost a silent majority potentially who do want that kind of hybrid, a bit of both moving forward. I mean, you mentioned in your own portfolio some of the kind of, I guess, winners and losers from a company point of view over this period. I mean, we're definitely starting to get a much clearer idea around the sectors of the economy that have been most adaptable to the challenges that have been thrown up this year. I mean, outside of the widely held belief around technology doing well and retail doing poorly, is there any others kind of outside those recognised norms from a sector point of view that you think will continue to thrive, and those that you might think will continue to struggle in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all sectors, I mean, they will recover, but it will obviously, as you said, it will be at different rates, and there's certainly potential new business models for all businesses, and I think you can quote examples, as you say, from retail, or even from automotive, or the cars, even simple things like cars are now getting sold online without even visiting a garage. So I mean, even I think every business model will adapt. I mean, I think for certain sectors, a lot of that the recovery will be driven around a number of different things. I think how we can, and certainly for us, in terms of how we can accelerate automation in our businesses, and across the factories, or across what we're doing. I think digitisation. I mean, you touched on technology. I think digitisation is key, but I think on the people side as well is really about how we can upskill and reskill the workforces. There is now this sort of, as we go into whatever the new world is going to be, to look at how we can make it a better place and a safer place to work, and that is we do need to look at the skills that people have and how we can outsource it. I mean, you touched on retail there, the whole consumer world, that it's going to change online. Even like for businesses like yourself, ourselves, all our businesses, the reshaping of sales functions, collaboration across manufacturers to supply chain. So I think certainly on the areas that will recover stronger, as you say, the technology side, the digitisation, communication online. For me, I think on our side, that certainly in the industrial side of it, I think like infrastructure is and with government spending, I think defence is a big one as well. One of our businesses is heavily involved in the defence side of things, and I think there's just about to an announcement there for one of our businesses, hopefully to win a 100 million plus contract there again coming out. So again, I think there's a lot of stimulus from those infrastructure side. Yeah. Other side that we are seeing is across the general industrials, in terms of the renewable side, the wind, the solar. As I said, we've got a wind gears business. On the advisory side of things, we've seen a lot of things on the research side, and the health and the pharmaceutical clinical research side. So I think across all sectors they will move forward different degrees. I mean, I think the challenges, as you touched on, retail, but I think there's a way to make it work. Travel, I think it's probably to our point earlier, and business travel, that will be the challenge and what that really means from there. But I think that certainly, for me, I am where we're looking at our time on is that industrial, but also the technology, the data around it, and putting in the new areas to the business that we've got in terms of as I said, we've been, on the advisory side, they've been working with a clinical research. There's another healthcare business that we've been chatting to. So I think that sort of side of things, and then the technology. So I think that for us, I think in the markets we're operating is positive, but I think for all sectors it will recover. But it's just what I said earlier, how we can adapt to that new business model through collaboration, through reshaping, through upskilling, through automation, etc.
Yeah. So even within the sectors that are perceived to be the most badly affected, you still think that there'll be opportunities for businesses to emerge successfully through this?
I think definitely. I think that I think all of us want to get to whatever that new norm is for all of it. Be it our daily lives, be it our working lives, be it our families, be it school. And I think a lot, even some of the things that we've seen come out of COVID with new business setups and, and the different way of learning and, and online learning, and even, some of the, the team building things that, are now happening, you can get done online. So I think that all sectors will emerge. It will be in a different form. And I think that, I think that, if businesses can get if they've got the knowledge in-house, or can look externally to see how they can challenge that norm so that they can come back out of it. Because I think that, there is, of course, retail, air travel, hospitality, industrials. I think, there's a place for all that, and there's a place for a new way of thinking of it all.
Yeah. Allan, that sounds like a great place just to end part one of our interview. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you.